this guy comes rolling in to the space. They do various workshops there. They host workshops, and he seems like an asana kind of dude. And I was studying a lot of asana at that time, in addition to meditation and other things. And he'd offered for the to the greater community to participate in his workshop. Just come if you like, and it was a pretty packed room, all the same. And I was the lone person in the community that opted to participate. And the hook for me was um, he taught a particular method, Ashtanga Vinyasa, that I had been exposed to just once before, a few years earlier. And like, oh, he's Ashtanga Vinyasa. Oh, there's that thing again. I had passed out during my first class, like that. So it kind of left an impression and got my attention. And so I thought, okay, here's a chance to, get even with that whole thing. And and turns out his name was Richard Freeman, who is a pretty internationally known name in that particular system. And in that workshop, he taught us all alignment principles that all fed into and supported some awareness around the central axis of the body, as he called it, the central axis of the body. That, and his proposition, among many propositions, was that the central axis is like the motherland of the yoga process. This is where our deep somatic life originates in many ways. And we, the method then is to articulate the periphery, including things like gaze and the placement of your tongue, and not to mention your limbs, um, to articulate the periphery in a way that awakens the central space. And in the yogic lore and rendering and really yogic esoteric anatomy, there's a vocabulary and namesakes that go along with further describing the importance or nature of the central axis. And it's described that the meridian system of the body, what we call what uh, has been come to be known as meridian system of the body, same meridian system that shows up in Chinese medicine, has 72,000 branches. So nadi means like a little river is one translation for it, a river, right? And just think about any time you've spent around a river, large or small, there's a certain flow to it. And of these 72,000, 14 are of major significance in terms of our health. And of these 14, 3 are of primary significance. And of these 3, 1 is of paramount significance, particularly in terms of our kind of spiritual and psychic or by mental growth and evolution. And lo and behold, these 3 primary meridians or nadis are located upon to the left and to the right and in the very center of the spinal axis. And on one level, we can, physically articulate our periphery in such a way as to awaken and gain access to our material length of our spine. And below that is some um, communication, conscious communication with the meridian system, whose namesakes are Ida on the left side, Pingala on the right, and Sushumna in the center. And even within Sushumna, there's concentric rings of refinement. Yeah, concentric rings, each um, colored more or less predominantly by a particular guna or a nature trait. So as you might imagine, it starts off more tamasic, becomes more rajasic, goes from sattvic, down to the most rarefied, right? So um, oftentimes this terrain of the central axis is approached through the medium of meditation, not just asana, the way I've been learning from Richard. Richard. In fact, that's a more peripheral way to get the conversation started, an effective way to get the conversation started. And when we start getting down into the more rarefied nature and nuanced distinctions and so forth, that becomes more of a meditative type of exercise. And the basic roadmap then of the spinal axis is the higher you place your attention on this column, the more potentially expansive your attention, or more particularly your eye sense becomes. So the ahamkara becomes increasingly more expansive. And we'll experiment with this, right? We'll say focus here, focus low, and and just check in with the eye sense, and focus here, check in with the eyes, focus here, check in with the eye sense, and see how our kind of sense of self is reorients depending on how far up we go. And it may sound very um, well, it is metaphysical. It is. I suppose I shouldn't. Um, this we're talking about yoga. Yoga is a metaphysical practice in many ways with practical applications.